I've said a number of times, dieting just wasn't my thing. Of course, it's fun to eat, and it's nice to feel full. But I think there's something more to my reluctance to diet. One of the most interesting questions a person can ask is, who am I? The question can be partially answered by considering, who am I not? In a society of people, there are certain ideas which are attractive to certain people. In a magazine, there are certain articles people will pay special attention to. They'll read them and be excited. There are some articles they ignore because it's not their cup of tea, or the article is hard to read because it makes them feel icky or bored. It's not hard to imagine like-minded people have a sense of kinship. It's also not hard to imagine these people seeking out magazines exclusively dedicated to the types of articles they like. They become dedicated to a cause. There's a part of them which relishes in their own righteousness. There's a part of them which is angry at those who don't feel the same as they do. It's a little bit of a trick for humanity to somehow get along. These differences of opinion affect people's lives in different ways. Does food ever get pulled into the fray? For quite a long time, tomatoes were thought to be poisonous. I'll bet you anything the simple fact of tomatoes being poison or not poison was not as important as the rivalries between people. Cranberries for a time were the object of suspicion. Other foods have come under fire because they're connected to civil unrest or oppression in various parts of the world. I want to put a finer point on things. There's civil unrest and oppression in a lot of places in the world, but there's civil unrest and oppression which gets the spotlight. Buying or boycotting these foods is less of a matter of personal health and more of a matter of how different people interpret the world. For one person, the decision is based on principles. For another person, it's a matter of how much they trust the information being given to them. When a college student insists their parents shouldn't eat a certain berry because that berry company supports a particular dictatorship halfway around the world, the parents are presented with a set of complex questions. The returning college student has obviously keyed into an exciting narrative which has inspired them to explore a certain subject. Now, are they sophisticated or gullible? Perhaps the two circles overlap just a little bit. Whatever the case, there's a food fight. Personally, in my own understanding of the world, I feel like there are people with more or less of a penchant for the food fight. It's not so much that the berry company supports civil unrest, and more the case that the college student wants to feel smart without having to work too hard. And they want to feel brave by having a little standoff. It's a way of feeling brave that's both safe and self-indulgent. I don't care for standoffs, and I must admit I rely on mainstream network news to interpret the magnitudes of data and intel from around the world and tell me what's important and provide a 5-minute analysis. I guess I'm simple that way. There's complicated layers of gameplay involved in the truth of things. One reason the berry company may be under fire is because their rivals pay more for advertising. You never know. As I try to figure out how my own mind works when it comes to food, if I were to have little lights flash in the dashboard of my brain, looking for the best price for the most food, and finishing all of that food, leaving nothing to waste, illuminates the correct lights for what's good and what's right. Anything that says diet or less, or even the words low or light are printed on the label, I think of as a waste, and a little control panel indicator light for bad starts to blink. Throwing away drippings after cooking a large animal? Wrong. That seems wrong, and it seems bad. Leaving anything left on my plate? There's a little indicator light that blinks bad. Not eating food that someone else worked hard to prepare? Wrong. Bad. After speaking at length about how it's good and it's right to eat a lot, you may assume I could never lose weight, and yet I made it happen. If I did it in such a way that made me feel like a creep all the time, I wouldn't do it. I feel like I had to get my mind right before any of this happened. Food is not a standoff. A diet should be a happy agreement. Now, I'll leave this on a sour note. Sour but honest and candid. This speech is entitled Food Fight. A happy agreement may seem like an end to the food fight, and I don't think that's what everyone wants. If you were to surrender and cater to the demands of others on one issue, it'll simply be replaced with another issue. They don't want the change. What they want is an argument.